This video shows how the Sterling Transformation Extender, PAC for Healthcare, supports HIPAA data compliance. Since the last HIPAA mandate, the scope of expectation for HIPAA data compliance has grown considerably. To be successful, most organizations will need to be able to validate and process not just the core HIPAA mandated transactions, but also the supporting transactions and other associated transactions used in a modern healthcare payments infrastructure. These transactions are all part of the HIPAA data compliance utility. HIPAA data validation is typically described in terms of levels or types numbered from 1 to 7. The good news is that the ITX HIPAA data compliance utility can be configured to validate based on these types, including type 7. These types were defined by WEDI, or the Workgroup for Electronic Data Interchange, in a white paper in 2002 to help the industry define and articulate how stringent the data is or needs to be validated in different cases. For example, WEDI SNP 1 simply means the data will conform to the base X12 standard for the transaction type. For Type 1 validation, a HIPAA 837P professional claim would not be constrained by the HIPAA loop structure and rules, but only by the base EDI standard. The same data could also be validated to Type 2, meaning that it conforms to the basic looping structure and segment content of the HIPAA TR3. The TR3 is X12's name for implementation guides. Type 3, or balancing, adds requirements to perform checking that a value in the details of the transaction matches the sum of that data at a higher level in the data. Type 4 adds requirements for checking that data across segments follow the rules in the implementation guide. For example, here we are seeing that the DTP segment for certification is required when CR301 is R or S. Now here's where it starts to get interesting and requires additional configuration, as not all entities that send and receive HIPAA data will be validating to these levels. Type 5 is external code checking. Here we're looking to see if the value in a data field matches an allowed publish value. The ITX HIPAA data compliance utility supports both code lookups and pattern matches. The pattern matching helps you implement cases where loading the table data would be too resource intensive or the table data is not available to you. This is an example of a Type 5 error reported by the ITX HIPAA data compliance utility for the code set we just showed. To understand how Type 6 rules are processed in HIPAA data compliance, I like to think of them in two parts. First, there's the main rule you are enforcing. For example, the CR1 segment must be present for a specified line of service. Secondly, you need to determine whether the claim involves this line of service. As the line of service is determined by specific code values and elements, these are also lookups similar to the Type 5 checks. Type 7 can be anything and everything else, and it is determined by mutual partner agreement, meaning that both the sender and the receiver have previously agreed upon these additional constraints. These are often expressed in documents called companion guides. We have also provided some Type 7 rules in the PAC for Medicare. These are based on specific implementation guide situational rules that call out Medicare. We hope you look to us to find out more information about ITX HIPAA data compliance for your validation requirements.